Making headlines. The president heeds the request by students and pledges the establishment of a ground floor hall in Mafana School. The Attorney General stresses the nation's vulnerability to the slow onset impacts of climate change. And the Housing Minister says the government will develop the development zones in the north and south of the country to serve a population of 100,000 people.
The president said he was delighted to attend the momentous celebration. Several students shared their concerns over the school hall, which is currently located on an upper floor. After hearing the concerns, the president assured the students that a hall will be built on the ground floor next year. He also noted that Mafana Madrasa is renowned as a school helping children with special needs with love and compassion, adding that a plan was underway to launch a program aimed at training teachers to facilitate the education of children with special needs. During the ceremony, principals and deputy principals of the school were presented with special plaques in honor of their dedicated services to the school. Attorney General Ahmad Sham stresses the nation's vulnerability to the slow onset impacts of climate change while reiterating Maldives' firm position to forced relocation as a response to these environmental challenges. Sham presented these remarks during oral submissions in the advisory proceedings entitled Obligations of States in Respect of Climate Change at the International Court of Justice (ICJ). The United Nations General Assembly during its 77th session adopted a resolution titled Request for an Advisory Opinion of the International Court of Justice on the Obligations of States in Respect of Climate Change. During these proceedings, states and international organizations were invited to participate in public hearings and present oral submissions. Representing the Maldives at the ICJ, Attorney General Sham underscored the leadership of President Dr. Mohamed Muiz in advocating for climate change action and called upon the international community to support nations vulnerable to climate impacts such as the Maldives. Sham's comments on the Maldives' susceptibility to climate change and opposition to forced relocation are particularly significant in light of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which necessitated the relocation of many residents to other islands. Those affected were initially provided with a temporary shelter, followed by permanent housing solutions facilitated by the state. The Maldives representation at the ICJ hearing also included international legal experts who elaborated on the mandatory obligations established under the climate treaty regime. According to a statement from the Attorney General's office, these experts highlighted the necessity for support to developing states and the duty to cooperate under customary international law. The AG office reiterated that the Maldives stands resolute in its dedication to collaborating with the global community to address the climate crisis. Ministry of Health warns that authorities will take punitive action against cafes and restaurants that allow smoking in non-smoking areas.
The Ministry of Health has warned that authorities will take actions against cafes and restaurants that allow smoking in non-smoking areas as part of its efforts to enforce the Tobacco Control Act enacted in 2010. At a press conference held to inform the media about the ministry's efforts, Minister of Health Abdullah Nazim Ibrahim stated that punitive action will be taken against cafes and restaurants which violate the law. This includes terminating the permits and business licenses issued to the cafes and restaurants. The Tobacco Control Act designates areas in cafes and restaurants as smoking areas which should be clearly marked with no smoking messages. Smoking in other areas is prohibited under the law. Violators of the smoking ban in public spaces would face a fine of approximately $34. Authorities have expressed concern regarding the lack of proper enforcement of these agencies. Minister Nazim emphasized that the enforcement of the Tobacco Control Act can only be achieved with the support and joint action of other related agencies. Meanwhile, Deputy Director of the Health Protection Agency, HPA, Hassan Muhammad, also acknowledged the challenges to enforcing the smoking ban in designated areas of cafes and restaurants and other public spaces. Citing that amendments have been made to the law to mandate owners of cafes and restaurants to ensure smoking bans are followed, the Deputy Director warned that punitive action will be taken against owners of cafes and restaurants who fail to follow the law. As part of the recent amendment to the Tobacco Control Act, the import of vapes and vaping products is also banned. The sale and use of vapes and vaping products will be banned from 15 December. The law also bans the sale of tobacco products to those below the age of 21.
Minister of Housing, Land and Urban Development, Dr. Ali Haider Ahmad, says the government will develop the development zones in the north and south of the country to serve a population of 100,000 people. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz has designated 7 islands for development as urban centers. Additionally, President Muiz has decided to develop 2 special development zones, one encompassing the 4 northernmost atolls of the Maldives and another one the 4 southernmost atolls.
Minister Dr. Haider stated that the government will develop the development zones of the country to serve a population of 100,000 people. Speaking to PSM News over the landmark development plan, Minister Dr. Haider stressed on the need to develop additional areas similar to the densely populated capital, Malé City, especially in the north and south of the island nation. The minister highlighted that these areas are regions that include populous islands located far from Malé. He added that the government's plan also includes developing separate urban centers within the urban regions. Furthermore, Minister Dr. Haider said that those zones are being planned to create job opportunities along with wider opportunities for tourism and a chance to expand private businesses. President Dr. Muiz's election manifesto is dedicated to the government's policies on housing and urbanization. In addition to the Malé urban region, the government has announced plans to establish a northern development zone as a high-quality service area including Ha Alif Atoll, Ha Dal Atoll and Shavian Atoll. Meanwhile, Kurudufushi City has been designated as the main administrative hub of this zone, with Hanimadu in the same atoll established as an international gateway and the establishment of an international transshipment port in Ihevandipolu Atoll. The manifesto also includes the establishment of a southern development zone with world-class facilities encompassing Gaf Alif Atoll, Gaf Dal Atoll, Formula City and Addu City. Addu City has been designated as both the main administrative hub and the international gateway for the southern zone. The plan to expand and develop an international transshipment port, industrial activities, fisheries, agriculture, mariculture, as well as tourism facilities has also been detailed in the manifesto.
Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Mohammad Amin says the government is trying to complete the new passenger terminal at the country's main airport, Velana International Airport VIA, ahead of schedule.
Minister Amin says that the government is trying to complete the new development of the passenger terminal at the country's main airport, Velana International Airport VIA, ahead of schedule. In his message on the occasion of International Civil Aviation Day, the minister noted that as the world crossed into the 21st century, civil aviation has become more than a mode of transport for people, adding that it has evolved into the engine that fuels economic and social growth. He proudly noted that Maldives is among the developing countries that have fully kept pace with the modern changes in aviation. The minister said the national flag carrier, Maldivian, will bring its first wide-body aircraft and commence flights to more international destinations. In addition, Minister Amin said despite the decent progress of the new international terminal at VIA, the government is now pushing to complete the project ahead of schedule. He said that the country is preparing to resume helicopter operations in the island nation in a bid to diversify its civil aviation industry. He added that the service, including medical evacuations, will provide air transportation of tourists between resorts and airports. It will also facilitate night flights to regions with no domestic airports. VIA operator Maldives Airport Company Limited (MACL) had previously said that the new terminal will be completed and open for passengers by the middle of next year. In his message, Minister Amin said that the International Civil Aviation Organization is scheduled to visit the Maldives in the middle of next year to conduct an audit to assess the country's compliance with international aviation standards. He expressed confidence that the efforts of the Maldives Civil Aviation Authority under the government's guidance will pass the audit with flying colors.
And now we'll take a short break for Isha prayers. Stay tuned.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدًا الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وبعثه مقامًا محمودًا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Welcome back to PSM News in English, and now we'll continue with the news. State Utility Company Malé Water and Sewage Company Private Limited MWSC list a $26 million bond on the Maldives Stock Exchange and invited interested parties to invest in $13 million worth of bonds.
MWSC has listed a $26 million bond on the Maldives Stock Exchange and invited interested parties to invest in the $13 million worth of bonds. The primary objective of this initiative is to raise funds for development projects and expansion of the company's business portfolio. The bond subscription has been listed in 2 tranches, with half of the total bond amount now open for investors through MWSC's online portal Vianney. Subscribers will receive 7.5% interest for the 5-year duration of the amortized bond. The company's revenue portfolio accounts for 55% from water and sewerage services, while the rest is generated as non-utility revenue. However, MWSC is aiming to boost its non-utility revenue by expanding the company's business portfolio to 60% of total revenue in order to ensure financial sustainability. According to Managing Director Abdul Mateen Muhammad, MWSC has secured new projects worth $84 million spanning more than 20 islands this year. However, Mateen said the company requires additional resources and equipment to carry out these projects, adding that financing is usually available at very high interest rates. MWSC has implemented major cost-cutting measures to save $11 million between the 3 quarters of last year and this year as part of its efforts to improve its financial capacity. According to Mateen, such efforts will boost the company's net profit by 100% this year without any added financial burden for people.
Malé Water and Sewage Company MWSC completes the water supply network project in Kumburudu, Alif Dal Atoll, addressing a critical need for safe drinking water in the island community. The project, initiated in December 2021, was carried out by the state-owned MWSC. For years, the lack of a proper network for safe drinking water has been a significant concern for the residents of Kumburudu, forcing them to endure considerable hardships. The completion of this project promises to alleviate these issues and significantly improve the quality of life on the island. Managing Director of MWSC, Abdul Mateen Muhammad, highlighted the collaborative effort behind the project. In a social media post, he stated that the project was completed with the hard work of many to ensure the supply of safe drinking water to the residents of Kumburutu. The Reserve Bank of India (RBI) kept its key interest rate unchanged on Friday, December 6th, but cut the cash reserve ratio (CRR) that banks are required to hold, effectively easing monetary conditions as economic growth slows.
India's GDP growth rate fell unexpectedly to 5.4% in the July-September quarter, its lowest pace in 7 quarters. While inflation is quickening again and the rupee has fallen to record low, limiting the RBI's room to maneuver, heading into what looks to be a globally turbulent new year. To balance the conflicting pressures on the economy, the central bank eased liquidity conditions while announcing steps to draw more foreign currency deposits, but kept its benchmark policy rate unchanged for now. The CRR was cut by 50 basis points to 4%, effective in 2 tranches on December 14 and December 28. The cut was the first since March 2020. The move will infuse 1.16 trillion rupees, about $13.72 billion into the banking system and bring down market interest rates. The benchmark repo rate, however, was left unchanged at 6.50% for an 11th straight policy meeting. 4 of the 6 members of the Monetary Policy Committee voted to keep rates unchanged. The committee voted unanimously to keep its policy stance at a neutral.
The MPC also decided unanimously to continue with the neutral stance and to remain unambiguously focused on a durable alignment of inflation with the target, while supporting growth.
RBI Governor Shaktikanta Das highlighted the importance of price stability to people as it impacts their purchasing power.
Price stability is important for the people because it affects their purchasing power. It is important for stability of businesses. It is important for exporters and importers. It is important for every segment of the economy.
India's benchmark 10-year bond yield was up 3 basis points to 6.7130% after the announcement, while the rupee rose 0.1% to 84.6225 per US dollar from 84.6600. The benchmark equality indexes were marginally higher after dipping before the policy decision.
South Korea's main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung said that he will work hard to end President Yoon Suk Yeol's term early, despite Yoon's apology to the nation.
South Korea's main opposition leader Lee Jae-myung said on Saturday he will work hard to end President Yoon's term despite his apology to the nation. The ruling party leader Han Dong-hoon also said an early resignation of President Yoon would be unavoidable as he is no longer in a position to carry out public duty. Earlier in the day, South Korean President Yoon apologized for his attempt to impose martial law this week and bowed during a televised speech to the nation only hours ahead of a planned impeachment vote. Yoon shocked the nation late on Tuesday when he gave the military sweeping emergency powers in order to root out what he called anti-state forces and overcome obstructionist political opponents. He said he would not seek to avoid legal and political responsibility for his decision, which he said was born of desperation. The speech was the embattled leader's first public appearance since he rescinded the martial law order early on Wednesday, just 6 hours after it was declared and after Parliament defied military and police cordons to vote against the decree. Some Seoul residents were disappointed after the South Korea president apologized for his attempt to impose martial law this week, but did not resign, defying intense pressure even from some in his ruling party to step down. Yoon's declaration of martial law late sparked outrage in the streets and concern among South Korea's international allies. The defense minister who recommended the move has resigned.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.
ರಾಜ್ಯಗ ಎಮ್ಮೆ ಆಮು ಬರಿದಕಕ್ಕೆ ಗೊಬಾ ಬಲಿ ಜೈಫೋರಿಕನ್ ದೆನಗಣ್ಣಾಣಿ ಕೀನೆ